for me to tell you how great my life is. It would be rude.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so fucking good.
Same.
Good. Not tell anyone. Just make them feel bad about themselves.
Yeah.
Some people, Coach Casey Acree, their lives are so fucked up that it could be raining titties and they still catch a dick.
One of the greatest quotes ever.
Coffee. Oh, you know what, Caleb? I did try to send you the notes. How about that? Bam. Okay. Guys, I really wanted to have Justin Medeiros on, but the DEI council at the Sevan Podcast said I had to have one dude from the Adaptive and one black dude and one Jewish dude before I start having superstars on. So we got to get Casey Acree out of the way. I'm so fucking sorry. This guy's only won the games twice. Fuck him. Oh, shit, we're live. Oh, I didn't even see you were there, Casey. Hi, sorry. I didn't mean to be offensive. And we're live. Dude, look at your shirt.
Branding.
So dope.
That's called branding.
Hey, you made this crazy video that said like you have 4 things that are more important than training. It really concerned me. And I'm like, you remind me of this UFC fighter, James Krause. Do you know who that is?
No, I don't. I don't follow UFC very closely, unfortunately.
He one of his fighters just became world champion. I forget who became world champion last week or did really good. Do you remember, Caleb? Anyway, he's a fighter. He like had 6 fights in a row without losing. He's in the 171-pound class. And he said it would be cooler for him to have one of his fighters win a championship than for him. He's like, oh no, has Casey fallen into that trap of being a good dude?
No, I don't think it's a trap. True, it's just true.
And why is that? Why not just focus on yourself, win like, another 3 in a row, the 4 in a row, tie Tia, and then be like, okay, who wants to be the protege?
Well, first off, I can't make enough money being an athlete for it to be the number one priority in my life. So it can't be my full-time job. So something else has to take priority there. And, I get just as much value out of those other things, just kind of as far as just fulfilling what I like to do and what I value in my day-to-day of being a dad and a husband and a coach and getting to be creative in some of the things that I do as being an athlete. So that's why it kind of falls a little bit lower on the pecking order, I guess.
Sorry, I think it was Brandon Moreno. Caleb, it was Brandon Moreno. I wonder if you would have been like that before you had kids. I bet you have a son, right?
Yeah, I have a son. I have a 3-year-old son and a 3-month-old daughter.
Holy cow! Wow, congratulations. Do you think that probably changed everything? If you didn't have a kid and you didn't have 2 kids, it'd be more about the Casey Acree show?
Yeah, probably a little bit. Definitely, I think having kids changes everything. But still, even then, from a practical standpoint, I would still have to worry and focus more on running my business and being a coach and doing the things that make a living. Cause like I said, there's just not enough money in adaptive CrossFit for it to be a full-time job like it is for Tia or Justin or some of those people.
What's the name of your business?
So I am the part owner called Summit Systems. So we have a gym. We do individualized coaching as well as remote coaching.
Are you pulling that up, Caleb? Hey, why? So, what screamed at me right there was you're saying that, do you strictly do adaptive athletes? Why not just do everyone?
No, I don't strictly do adaptive athletes. We do. I have more clients that are able-bodied or just kind of normal general population clients than I do adaptive athletes.
And every time you win the games, it must be, whether it should be or not, it's got to be a feather in your cap, right? I mean, to win the CrossFit Games twice is pretty fucking nutty.
Yeah. I mean, I would say yes. It does help me as a coach and that kind of thing, as far as just having legitimacy with adaptive athletes and with all athletes, really. Yeah, for sure.
Who are these dudes? Cameron and who was the other guy?
Cameron and Kyler. Those are my best friends and business partners.
I think there's a guy in the comments at Gentry, a Travis. Is Travis related to them?
I don't think so.
But maybe.
Not that I know of.
And where are you based out of?
Our gym is in Decatur, Illinois.
Oh.
You came here once.
I did.
You came.
No. Is that the one that I don't think I did? I think Greg did. Did I come with them?
Yeah, Greg did. So that I used to work at that gym. That's where I was the manager and head coach of that hospital gym.
Oh shit. Wow. What a small world.
Yeah.
Okay, explain that gym to me for people. Re-explain it to me. Refresh my memory, and so the people at home know. This is a great story.
Yeah, so Decatur, Illinois is home to the first ever, I believe, hospital CrossFit affiliate. It's called CrossFit Enhance. It was originally opened by Decatur Memorial Hospital by the president of at the time of the hospital was Ken Smithmeyer. And so it opened in 2008 or 2009. And so, yeah, it was owned by the hospital. It wasn't owned by any one individual. It was really initially started as a wellness program for employees only. It wasn't even open to the public. It was basically a free wellness offering for employees. Eventually opened up to the public. Grew to be pretty large. It was whenever I was the head coach and manager there from February of 2017 until January of 2020. And we had for stretches there over 300 members in our gym.
Crazy.
Yeah. And unfortunately that gym has since closed permanently.
No shit. Was that a one of the responses to COVID?
It was kind of a result of COVID. They were being affiliated with the hospital. They were much stricter about, being open. So the state mandated that gyms were closed from like March 13th until June 2nd or something like that of 2020. And then even when gyms were allowed to reopen, the hospital wasn't really allowing for CrossFit Enhanced to have classes. And that eventually led to, they just decided that they were paying for something that wasn't really providing value anymore. So they closed it in February of 2021.
Can you imagine closing a CrossFit gym because you think it's not providing value?
Yeah. I mean, without getting too much into it, at some point, actually even before I started working there, the administration changed. The people that were in charge, it was no longer Ken Smithmeyer who was originally opened it. It was the administration changed, and the value that they felt it held wasn't very high.
I'd love to see pictures of those people who decided that, and I'd love to judge the fuck out of them based on what they look like.
Yeah, it would probably make you go crazy.
Yeah, I can see them already in my eyes.
Yeah.
in my third eye or fourth eye or whatever that thing is called.
Yeah.
So fucking nuts. Hey, and is that why you opened yours? You're like, you open your own training program. You're like, okay, now this is.
No, I actually, well, yeah, I mean, yes, eventually it was many things as the head coach and owner, feeling like you didn't really have, or head coach and manager, didn't really have a lot of support from the administration. And I was very, no pun intended, I was very handcuffed on what we could do there. And
hey, even what you could say.
What's that?
Even you were even handcuffed on what you could do, but also what you could say.
Yeah. I mean, really, honestly,
you couldn't be like, hey, don't worry about what they told you about type 2 diabetes. I got you. Do this. You couldn't say that.
Yeah, like you had to be very careful about what type of authority we tried to hold as uh, I don't know what you want to
You're
call
not
it.
the doctors there.
People that were trying to help people be healthy.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so, and yeah, I mean, that on top of being the only full-time employee in a gym with 300 members, and all of our other staff was per diem, basically, like part-time.
Wow.
And we ran 13 or 14 classes a day that were 45 minutes long. And so there was definitely some coaching burnout, not a lot of resources. And like, as a coach, as someone who I came into the profession of, wanting to be a professional coach, I just felt limited on what I could do there. So in January of 2020, I had the opportunity to open up just like a small kind of private deal. And I took it. I was able to get into a place that was pretty cheap, and just kind of started, building up our clientele from the ground up, basically.
Are you affiliated?
Not a
No. And what's the name of the gym again?
summit.
Summit.
Yep.
Sorry, say that again. For some reason, I can't talk over you, and that's like one of my favorite things to do. Every time we talk at the same time, it goes silent. Tell me the name again. Sorry.
Summit Systems. SUMMIT
Why do you call it that?
Um, it actually has to do with the town that me and my friends grew up in. It's called Harestown, Illinois, just outside of Decatur, about 1,000 people. It Before it became officially Harestown, long ago. That's a really good. My business partner made that meme. It's really funny.
I like it.
Our town was called Summit. That was like a temporary name for it back in like the 1800s, before it became an affiliated town. And so we would jokingly, when we were growing up, call our hometown Summit. And so since we were all from the same place, when we were creating our business, we wanted that to be a part of it, because we're all like kind of proud of like our small town, roots or whatever.
It's funny, when I typed in Summit, Illinois into Google, the first thing that popped up was a place called Portillo's Hot Dogs.
That makes more sense. Anything that has to do with Illinois is hot dogs or fast food or something along those lines.
Okay, you're just outside of Chicago.
No, so that what you're seeing there is not what is. You need to look up Harestown, Illinois.
Okay. So, okay, I see Decatur down there.
Yeah,
I see Decatur down there.
middle of nowhere.
When you say middle of nowhere, when you go to, like, every day, do you see farm animals? Like, if you drive to the store, do you see farm animals somewhere? Like, do you live like that
Yes,
in the country?
I now live in Illiopolis, Illinois,
Uh-huh.
which is directly in between Decatur and Springfield, basically. So those are kind of like the two bigger towns. And yeah, Illiopolis has 1,100 people, I think. And so the first thing, to get to work every day, I'm just driving through past the cornfields, basically. Yeah.
Is that town Springfield? Is that the Simpsons town?
No, it's not.
Is that where Carl Eagleman lives? Do you know who that is? The guy, he does the drawings on Instagram of like positions, overhead squat. He's like a big old dude, like 6'7", 6'8".
I don't think so. It doesn't sound familiar. Springfield's though. A lot of people think it's Chicago, but Springfield's the capital.
Oh, okay. Are you? Where were you born, Casey?
I was born in Decatur, so I've been here pretty much my whole life.
And you were born with your arm exactly the way it is today.
Yes.
Do your parents know that before you come out?
Yes, they could tell in like the sonograms or whatever that at some point, some stage along the way, my arm just basically stopped developing. I think there's a way to find out exactly why. I don't really know why. It could have been something physical obstructed the growth of it while I was in the womb or something like that. But not really sure why.
Could I see it?
Yeah.
The end? And then where, and could you point? Oh, so your elbow's on. Okay. So your elbow's still there.
So I have a little bit of my forearm.
Uh-huh.
So I have an elbow joint where I can, hold on to stuff right in
Yeah. When you had your kids, did that go through your brain? Like, oh, I wonder if this is going to be passed on.
there. A little bit, but I knew that it's not something that's genetic. So, I mean, I kind of thought about that, but there's no evidence would suggest that it's like an inherited trait. It's something more physical or mechanical in the developmental process than it is something that's a genetic, connection or something.
And they have no theory, like the umbilical cord was wrapped around the arm there, or like they have no.
I mean, that could have been it. That's, I think, something that happens commonly. There's plenty of theories, but at least back then, as far as I know, there wasn't any way to pinpoint exactly what the mechanism was.
And then when you're born, are your parents concerned that other things would be missing too, like your frontal lobe or something that's like important?
No, because I guess as far as the doctors were able to tell them, everything else was normal as far as, growth and head shape and organs, and everything else was normal. It was just that my arm just stopped growing at some point.
Do you know Kyle Maynard?
Kyle Maynard? I don't think so.
He owned a CrossFit gym and he had no arms and no legs. And
Yes.
And he was born like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, like, in some of those cases, I know, like, certain medications, like if the mom is taking certain medications, sometimes that can be an issue with developmental growth or so yeah, I don't know. I honestly, I don't really know or have never really dug deeper into why these things happen. I've never really been too concerned or cared too much, because I've always had the mindset of, like, it is what it is.
Greg went to Greg Glassman and Kyle went to it's slipping my mind right now, but it's one of those organizations that looks after vets who have been injured.
Okay.
It's the famous one, the big one. Anyway, and Greg and Kyle walk into the room, and it's a room full of 300 dudes, and all the dudes are missing something, right?
Yeah.
And Kyle gets up in front of the whole room, and he says to the room, God, and this dude's got no arms and no legs. And he says, God, I feel sorry for you. Greg tells me this. Kyle goes, God, I feel sorry for you guys. Sucks. And he goes, and Greg said, like, no one else could have said that, right? And he goes, yeah, I was born like this.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what it was like to fucking lose. Having that. And I was just like, holy shit. And this guy's a professional speaker too. He knows what he's doing. But Wounded Warrior Project. Thank you, Caleb.
Yeah, I say that all the time. I say that all the time. I compete with and against guys that's their situation. They had an injury. They had their entire lives knowing having two arms, and then they have an injury. Like Logan Aldridge is a good example of that. Lost his arm in an accident when he was 13 years old or whatever, and had to relearn everything. So I tell people all the time, I'm one of the lucky ones that this is all I've ever known. So I've just been able to learn how to do life and how to do everything with just having one hand. So,
are you right-handed or left-handed?
Right-handed.
Do you know that for certain?
Well, no.
I don't even, and it begs to question, like, how anyone knows.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I'm left-footed, but so there was some time that I thought maybe I was supposed to be left-handed. But I think that handedness is a little bit more like ingrained and genetic, whereas your foot dominance is something that's learned a little bit more. And so what my mom tells me is that when I was like a kid or like a toddler, when you're like, you just sit and play with stuff, she said I would use my left foot a lot, basically like in place of my left hand. The toy sitting down on the floor, and I'm using my right hand, and then I'm using my left foot, and I have really good like pedal dexterity in my left foot as well. I can like move my toes really well and grab stuff. And so she always said that's why she thinks that I eventually became left-footed, is because I was so used to using my left foot for things growing up, and that's something that's a little bit more environmental than it is inherited or whatever.
Do you skateboard?
I used to.
Are you goofy or are you regular?
I am goofy.
Right. But are you comfortable regular?
No.
No, you're not. Okay. Wow.
No.
Okay.
I can hardly keep myself on a skateboard if I try to go regular. But I'm fairly proficient if I go goofy. I'm goofy mongo. I don't know do you know what that term is? Yeah.
Unfortunately, I do. I spend way too much time at the skate park. I don't even skate.
I'm like the 0.1% of skateboarders. I'm goofy mongo.
Wow. Hey, no one tried to break you of the mongo habit?
No, I just taught myself how to. That's what I do.
Yeah, what a trip.
I just learned it, and that's what felt right. I put my left foot on the back quarter of the board. I kick with my right foot, and then whenever I go to ride, I put my right foot on, and then I move my left foot to the tail.
Damn, that's hardcore.
It's just, and then eventually I realized that I was doing something weird. I just had to see some other people doing stuff where they were actually starting with their front foot on the board, kicking with their back foot, and I could never relearn how to do it.
My kids, one of my kids but he doesn't know what he is. He's been skating for a year, and he switches between regular and goofy. And my 7-year-old is now just learning. He's goofy, but he's learning regular.
Yeah.
And it's a trip. I mean, kudos to it's like trying to learn how to write with your other hand.
Yeah, I'm sure. My son is kind of figuring out, he's got a little bit of like ambidextrousness.
Yep.
And when he swings a bat or swings a golf club, he swings it lefty.
Yeah.
Which I probably should also, but I always learned how to swing righty because I just did what older brother did. And so I can't swing lefty. So I'm like trying to learn how to like help him do these swings in the direction that I'm not used to doing. It's interesting.
I try to have my kids do everything with both hands.
Yeah.
Like, so every day, even if it's just for 5 minutes, I just take a bag of balls.
Yeah.
And I just say, hey, throw right and left-handed to me every day.
Yeah.
Or, kick these balls with your left foot and right foot. I think it's such a, I think it alters your perspective on the world. The more ability you have to, in a good way, the more ability you have to interact with it.
Yeah.
For sure. When, there's some point in your life, I guess I'm assuming it happens to everyone, but someone finds something about themselves that they don't like. And I'm guessing that most of the times it's because they're different, and it could be like the girl whose boobs get so big, it makes her self-conscious, or it could be the dude whose nose gets so big. I never even knew I was short until I went to college, believe it or not. But like I see my kids, one of my kids has already like recognized that he's short.
Yeah.
And I guess it's, I guess I never thought of it until I heard you talk. So I heard Max El Haj ask you about it when you became aware that, wait, something's on me is different.
Yeah.
But it's kind of weird. It's a huge moment for all human beings, because then it's like, I guess one of the first times you reflect on yourself. You don't reflect on yourself when something's good. I think all of our memories we reflect on ourselves when something's bad, right? I mean, our initial ones.
Yeah, probably.
You're never like, my parents are so great, they took me to Disneyland. It's always like, oh, fuck, I only got one arm.
Well, I mean, yeah, maybe until you kind of work through those things, and then you can,
right.
like, yeah, I mean, 100%, because obviously what you're referring to is like at some point in my life when I was a kid, I was like, wait, I'm different.
Yeah.
And something must be wrong with me. And I can remember times of being angry and like wanting to be just like everybody else. But then now I can also reflect on the age that I eventually kind of, I don't know, transcended that, or realized that my differences could actually be a strength, or, what did I get out of those things? So I don't know, maybe, yes, you kind of have both ends of it, of if you eventually get to that point of being able to work through whatever those self-perceived issues are, that then maybe you can also reflect on the quote good things, I guess.
Did some other kid point it out to you, or did you realize it? Like when
Oh,
you have a big nose, someone else got to point it out to you. You
no,
know what I mean?
I mean, it was obviously I knew, but I think I had some self-awareness at a pretty young age. I was hyper competitive, probably too competitive in some things. So,
Like at what age? At what age? Like at 3 already?
yeah, 4 or 5 years old. Like, I guess maybe it was from having an older brother that was already like active and played sports and stuff like that, I just was trying to do the things that he was doing and I couldn't sometimes. And so there were definitely some times of frustration there. And yeah, like in school, there would be, kids would make fun of me, or, call me. I remember one kid in my neighborhood, he started calling me Stumpy. And it made me mad.
That's really original.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, what does that even, how did I let that, maybe I should have been wiser as a 5-year-old, but I'm like, how did I let that kid get me frustrated calling me something so stupid as Stumpy? But yeah, I mean, there were times of frustration and self-doubt and like wanting for things to be different and being a little bit angry and all those things, which I think everyone can go through for different reasons. Like you said, everyone kind of eventually has something that they look back at.
There's something about the human brain that struggles with the I'm sure there's studies on it, that has troubles processing a limb missing, like from the outsider. It's so you're so a guy, I rolled up to a car accident one time. A dude purposely drove his car into a crowd and he killed 5 people.
Yeah.
And I was and I walked up to it and I was going around checking on the people, and the people didn't look human to me anymore. Like their bodies were fucking mangled.
Yeah.
And I remember my brain doing some weird shit that I can't even explain. Like I couldn't process the way they were twisted up.
Right.
And so, like me and you were walking past each other in the grocery store, and it's like the same, like a 3-legged dog, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to take a double take.
Yes.
Or it's your instant reaction, because it's like I used to take pictures of bugs, and you would look at a bush and no one would see the bugs, but I would sit there and I would take like 20 deep breaths, and then all of a sudden the bugs are what don't fit in the pattern. Plants have like crazy patterns to them. And then all of a sudden, once you realize, oh fuck, there's 1,000 bugs in here that I never saw at first, but they don't work in the pattern. They're trying to fit in, but they don't.
Yeah.
You're like, you motherfucker, I see you now. You know what I mean? They have their own fucked up pattern that's different than plan. And it must be like that everywhere you go. Like everyone who sees you has to reprocess that was a dude with one arm, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, do you do that to people when you see someone like with one leg? Do you feel your brain do that? Like,
yes, absolutely. And that's what I tell people is like, I've had people like ask me, or parents get worried that their kids are gonna offend you or something like that by looking or by being curious. And I'm like, I am around people that are missing limbs all the time, and still, whenever I see it in a environment that I'm not expecting it, yeah, absolutely. Like I'll double take. It's like you mentioned, it's just your natural human instinct when you see something that feels like it doesn't fit to what you are used to seeing. And so Yeah, absolutely. Everywhere that I go in public, you can feel it, you can see it, and I think at some point, if you for people that are different or have some obvious physical difference that you can see, you eventually just kind of have to get used to it. And I if I'm not thinking about looking for people looking at me, then I don't even notice it. But yeah, I mean, all the time.
Greg Glassman, the founder of CrossFit, as a kid, he had polio. And
Yeah.
like, I hung out with him for like fucking 10 years and I never heard like a peep of it, you know?
Uh-huh.
And like, I hung out with him every day. He never talked about it. And then
Yeah.
finally one day we were sitting there talking, and I don't know if you know much about polio, but back in the day, like people thought like you could touch me and get it. Like it was like AIDS of the day, but 1,000 times scarier.
Yeah.
Even 1,000 times scarier than the fucking idiots about COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Like this shit was like fucking people up, right? Who had like perfectly healthy people. And so everyone basically it was tough, crazy psychological shit. Like something was really wrong with you. Anyway, and then he had it for a year, and they didn't know he had it, and of course I don't want to get too much into it, but of course he was vaccinated from it. And so as he got older, he gets into gymnastics, right? And he becomes a really fucking strong gymnast. And he told me that he hated it. He hated it that people would say pretty good for a dude with polio.
Yeah.
He fucking hated it. And when he would say that to me, like I couldn't really get my head wrapped around that. But I feel it, right? Because right away they're putting you on the outside like something's different than you. And you're like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Is that something you, I mean, part of me would think like if I only had one arm, I would just get used to that, but maybe not. Like, just, does it get old when people say that? And then if it does get old, then why do the adaptive division? Like, I hear you wanting to, do you see there's kind of like a weird paradox there? You're promoting adaptive division, and yet there's another party who's like, fuck you, I can do everything that anyone can do. Like, why do I have to be the guy with one arm?
Yeah. Yeah. So yes, I mean, I do get that a lot. Like I grew up playing sports. I was a football player, basketball player. And so, and like, you know, had some success there. And so people would say all the time,
like you started on a high school basketball team?
Yes.
Yeah. That's dope.
Yeah. Basketball, football, 3 years of football, 1 year starter in basketball.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I would get all
no one was like, hey dude, you're a soccer player.
I hate soccer. Like 5, way too boring for me. No, yeah. I mean, I loved basketball and I love football. So that's what I wanted to try to go play. My school's so small, we didn't even have a soccer team anyways. So,
hey dude, you're track and field. You're track and field.
I did track and field also.
You did? Okay.
Yeah. That was probably, as an individual, that was probably like my best sport, like obviously. But people would be like, man, think about how good of a football player you'd be if you had 2 arms. Think about how good of a basketball player you'd be if you had 2 arms. And I'm like,
who said that? Who said that?
Oh, I mean, I've had people say that. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And I get that. Like I see what people's point is there. I mean, it's obvious. But what I always try to do is I give them the perspective that there was a certain point, and so this kind of goes back to one of your last questions about when you can eventually, transcend or get past whatever those self-perceived weaknesses are to find what your strengths can be. For me, I realized at a certain point that, like, yes, skill-wise, I was not going to be as good as a lot of the players I played with or played against, but I could work harder than anybody else. And if you ask anybody that I played with, anybody that coached me, there wasn't a person on the basketball court that was working or playing as hard as I was at any given point. And so because of my differences, because of the the obvious that I'm not going to be as good of a ball handler as people with two hands, I learned I got what my strengths could be. And that was like busting my tail all the time and having a great work ethic and just being scrappy and being a hustler and, playing great defense and being a great teammate and being a great leader, and anything I could do to keep myself to basically, like, my mindset was always give the coach no other option but then to put me in the game, right? Mitigate what my limitations were by building up everything else that had nothing to do with my limitations. And so I tell people all the time, yeah, maybe I could have been a better basketball player, a better football player if I had two hands, or maybe I could have just been a piece of shit that didn't really care and never had that work ethic. And maybe I never even did anything, but I kind of like went into those challenges because I enjoyed those things. And I wanted to push myself and put myself on that gold standard of, I'm not just going to try to be the best one-handed basketball player. I just want to be the best basketball player. I'm not going to just be the best one-handed football player. I just want to try to be the best football player, regardless of whatever I have. So yes, I get those questions a lot, but I try to always give back.
I think it's a dipshit thing to say.
It is.
Because, like, if I saw you smoking cigarettes, I could say to you, dude, imagine how much better you'd be if you didn't smoke.
Right. Because it's a choice.
Yeah, and it's grounded in reality.
Uh-huh.
There is no fucking reality. There is no reality in you having a second hand.
Yes. Yeah. I see what you're saying. And I don't get mad about it because I can.
Yeah. Good on you.
Because I've also thought about it. I've also thought.
Right.
I played wide receiver in football, which seems
shit.
The least obvious position for someone with one hand to play. But that's kind of based on like my size and not being super fast. That's where I kind of had to play. And there were times that I'm like, man, would I catch more footballs if I did have my other hand, or would I,
when you dropped the ball, would you blame the fact that you didn't have a second hand?
Sometimes, but not really. Because again, then I can always come back to, maybe I wouldn't even be on the field right now if I hadn't worked so hard when I was 12 years old to get to this point where now I'm 16 and I'm starting varsity. If I hadn't had some of those personal growth experiences, maybe like I said, maybe I'd just be, someone's just sitting at home, not even trying. So,
do you think you have a chip on your shoulder, maybe, like, in a good way? Do you think you leveraged like your ego? Like I get fired from CrossFit and now I'm like, fuck you, watch me take over media for my fucking little office here.
A little bit. Yeah, for sure. I try not to think about it as like the negative, kind of like what you said.
No, not negative, but use it. Don't let it go to waste.
Yeah.
And everywhere. Like, okay, I'm not going to drink tonight, so tomorrow my podcast can be the best. I'm going to work out now so I look good on my podcast. Like, put myself in a situation where I don't want to be exposed and leverage that to like work on my insecurities. You know what I mean? Like, leverage my insecurities.
I'd be lying if there wasn't a small part of some of the things that I do. I'd be lying if I said that there wasn't a small part of me that was like, I'm going to do this to try to prove some people wrong. Right. And maybe sometimes you almost make up who those people are.
Yeah, of course.
Maybe don't fuck, but
right.
And maybe I don't have any of those haters that I'm kind of making up in my mind or whatever.
Right.
Like you said, that's your ego, and you're leveraging that, like you said, to keep you motivated or continue pushing into challenges, or to make the decisions that aren't the easy decisions.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, for whatever reason, like, you need to go from point A to point B, and almost whatever it takes to trick yourself to do it needs to be done.
Yeah. Yeah. And I try to make as much of those
ideally positive,
but yes, positive and based on purpose and based on, a real intrinsic motivation, not I think too many people can fall into the trap of like, the reason that I'm doing this is to prove the haters wrong. And I think eventually that becomes not enough. If
Right.
whatever it is that you're trying to achieve isn't, if it's hard and that's your only motivation, that's hard to sustain. So I've throughout my life, whatever it's been, I've tried to connect things more back to like, why am I competing in CrossFit? It's for me. It's not for this public image or to prove anyone wrong or to, whatever. It's the majority of the reason of why I do something is for myself and the things that I've, connected as being, my purpose, which I think has allowed for me to continue doing it as long as I have.
How many one-armed dudes and chicks are there in the United States? Do you know?
No, I don't.
If it was a million, it would be one in every 350. So that's like, there's not a million, because I see 350 people every day, and I don't see. How often do you think you see, how outside of the CrossFit, when you compete with other people with one arm or one hand or whatever, how often do you run into someone?
Not that often.
Can you even remember the last time? Like in the grocery store, and you're like, do you guys nod at each other like two black dudes, like in a white area of town? You're like, what's up?
You'll love this. This is actually probably...
No shit. Oh, missing limbs. No shit. There are 2 million people. Hey, dude, I bet you the vast majority of those people. Yep, vast. I bet you that's all because, dude, type 2 diabetes is kind of good for you because that's brought a lot of people into your club. Do you know that it used to be like 20 years ago, the leading people who used prosthetics were like motorcycle accidents. Now it's people who just drink too much Coca-Cola. Can you imagine drinking so much Coke you lose your fucking arm?
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So tell me the last time you ran into some cat with
one
arm.
So there's Amish country very close to where I live. So there's a lot of Amish and Mennonites. I was in the grocery store probably like 7 months ago. And this Amish guy walked up to me. He was wearing a denim jacket, and he like folded the sleeve back, and he looks at me and he goes, "We have something in common." And so I talked to him for a minute. He lost his arm on a saw. He was like, and he slipped, and the saw cut his arm off.
Dude, can you imagine? What? Say that again?
That was the last one I can remember, like in a random place, seeing someone else that had a missing limb.
Could you imagine, like, you're doing something and you look down and fucking part of your arm's
gone? Yeah.
Hey, do you have any rules, since you only got one arm, or like shit you don't do? Like, okay, I'm not gonna be around saw. Like, I'm not gonna be around guillotines, saws, like the certain machinery. You're like, I'm not even going close to you. Fuck off.
I should, like, that logic is sound.
Yeah.
But I don't. I was just helping my dad cut a tree down. Just
not cool. Not cool.
Just a couple weeks ago, and I'd be lying if I didn't say the thought arises of like, man, for me, if I lose any of these fingers, like the value that I have in the one hand that I have is much higher than someone who has two hands. Like, you guys have a 50-50 shot. This is one and done for me.
Dude. Hey, and you got an abnormally large hand too, right? Like your hand,
yeah. And I don't know, maybe that's just God's grace, or maybe it was learned, or maybe it was adaptation over time of only having one hand to use. But yeah, relative to my height and size, my hand is pretty large. Like, I was always able to, even at, I was in high school, 5'8" and 130 pounds, and I could palm a basketball and catch a football with one hand, like Odell Beckham Jr. away from my body and that kind of thing. So yeah, that's I consider that a little bit of luck as well, maybe.
I want to say that it's the body compensating.
I think so. I can see that. I think it's, yeah, you probably adapt by just, you know, using everything that I've ever done with my hand. I've only had one hand to do it with. So yeah, maybe just the extra resistance and strength and that kind of thing has just naturally made my hand grow a little bit bigger.
Have you ever injured that arm or
I,
that hand? Broken it or?
I broke my wrist in high school football, like a week and a half before like 2-a-day practices started my sophomore year. And so I went through like the first 2 weeks of football. I had a cast on and had to like put a big carpet pad and tape it up. So I pretty much had like no hand, and I played wide receiver going.
Hey, did you lose a lot of weight when you broke your wrist because you ate less?
No.
Oh.
I was still able to eat. Like I could grab stuff. I had like my fingertips and my thumb. I could grab. I still could wipe my butt, which was nice. I didn't have to, as a 16-year-old, I didn't have to have someone help me, you know, take care of my own hygiene.
My 7-year-old still asks me to wipe his ass. I oblige.
Well,
I've had 3 people with one arm on this show.
Have you?
That's pretty crazy. I wonder if I have the record in the podcast game for most one arm. I had Bethany Hamilton.
Oh yeah.
And I had Logan Aldridge.
Yeah.
And now I have this 2-time CrossFit Games champion, Casey Acree.
You probably have the record.
Probably have I wonder if I have a fetish if I need to be checked. Big and Flexi, congrats, champ. Even doing it for you, you're smashing stereotypes and being an incredible example of our youth. I don't know. I think my stereotype, Big and Flexi of one-armed dudes is they're all kind of like him. I knew this other dude. His name was Vern Martell. They called him the one-armed bandit. He was from Canada. And Vern with a V, Martell, and he was this amazing arm wrestler. And I was pretty good friends with him. When I think of one-armed dudes, I think of them as kind of like you.
Well, maybe
like just go-getters.
Maybe that's just because you've had the chance to get exposed to, because, you know, it's interesting and it's amazing and it's attracting. It's, you know, it's attractive to see people that are different being able to do things like that. But I mean, to that comment, I mean, there are people that they have an accident and like depression and just, you know, zero sense of purpose and you know, so that can kind of go back to your last a couple questions ago. You asked why do adaptive if I'm, you know, trying to be as competent and as capable and everything as I possibly can.
Normal. You want to be normal, and yet you're in the adaptive class.
Yeah. Well, first off, I just like to compete and I like to train. And I mean, I tried to do quarterfinals in the open division and they wouldn't let me.
No shit. I saw that you made quarterfinals. You were top 1,200.
Yeah.
What do you mean they wouldn't let you?
I don't know, kind of a long explanation. First off, they were mad because I created 2 CrossFit Games accounts to be able to
like it.
Because you can't sign up for 2 divisions under one account.
Dude, brilliant.
So I just created 2 accounts, and they didn't like that, which I'm like, why wouldn't you like that? I paid 2 registration fees.
Yeah.
And there was the assumption that I was going to have to modify movements from their actual standards, which is the case at times. Like I did, like the open workout that has alternating dumbbell snatches. I didn't alternate. I did them all on one arm, which technically is not within the standards of the movement.
Right.
So those are some of the reasons of like, yes, there are some things that I don't do correctly by standards. It's not that it's an advantage, I don't think, but it's true.
How weird is it that you, because you're missing an arm, might have some issues entering the individual class, but yet a dude can enter the women's class? I'm having trouble. I'm having trouble meshing those together.
Me and you and I both.
I'm having trouble.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty go with the flow. So whenever I was told that I was not going to be allowed to donate my $50 to CrossFit so that I didn't take one spot away from the guy who took 5,887th in North, there was some frustration there.
I mean, even that wording is fucked up, by the way. I don't mean to hate on CrossFit. I don't know how it exactly works over there, but take away, you have one arm, and so you're taking something away from that dude.
Yeah, because
it's not even your fault. It's not if you chopped off your arm on purpose.
Yeah.
I could see at least like going to court over it, but you're fucking born like that. It was and what
also
the fuck?
I beat that guy in the open. That was the other.
Yeah.
Like, he should be embarrassed that I beat him.
Don't be a dick, Casey. He's probably 50 and Armenian and only 5'5". Don't be a dick.
Maybe. If that's the case, I mean, that's fine. And so, I mean, look, I wasn't going to make the next stage, and I was still planning on doing the adaptive divisions. And the adaptive divisions give me a chance to compete. That's one thing, is like, I know that there's going to be a set of standards that are as fair as possible that allow.
Oh shit, he can identify as a 2-armed cisgender man.
That's what I told him.
Oh no, what is cisgender? That's like you have a penis and you like vagina. Is that?
It means yes,
you're straight.
We're born
okay.
Identify as a male is what cisgender is, I believe, right?
Oh man.
Or you were born a female and you identify as a female.
Wow. Hey, you don't have so how is that resolved? How was that? They just slapped you around a little bit and took away your individual account and tossed you an adaptive?
I didn't get the official quarterfinals registration invite. I got the initial one.
Unreal.
I slipped through that first crack. I got the first one that was like, hey, you're top 10% in North America. In the coming days, expect to get your official registration link or whatever. And then someone saw that I had gotten, qualified for quarterfinals, and they were like curious how I had done both divisions. And then it kind of worked its way up to, I don't know. I don't know how far up it had to go for someone to say, no, we're not going to allow for someone who's going to have to modify movements to take a spot away from someone else that qualified.
I would love to see you do that sandbag event.
Yeah.
I'd get really drunk and watch you do it. And with one arm, Casey Acree. Ricky, move. It's Casey's turn. Get off. Stop celebrating, Ricky. Move.
Yeah.
Speaking of Ricky, do you train in Underdogs Athletics?
I work with them. So I coach for Underdogs. I ride an adaptive competitors program for them, as well as remote coach individuals through Underdogs. So yeah, I'm part of that Underdogs camp.
And how did that? Sorry.
No, I was just saying I don't train in person with them or anything, but just through the interwebs, I'm part of that Underdogs camp.
How did that happen? How are you are you friends with Kotler?
Honestly, it just happened. I mean, like I mentioned with my business, I do a lot of remote coaching. Like vast majority of my clientele is remote, because I live and my gym is in a county in a town that's very, very unhealthy and doesn't value exercise very much, which is both good and bad. So it definitely inhibits the market. So being able to, I started coaching remotely years ago. And that's one of like the biggest parts of my profession is remote coaching. Last fall, September, October, Underdogs basically just put out like that they were looking for remote coaches to start working with some athletes. So I basically I didn't know any of them personally. I just submitted my application and all that business and a little cover letter, and had a couple of phone conversations with Justin, and they hired me as a coach and started writing the adaptive program in January. And so, yeah.
When I saw that you're an OPEX guy.
Yeah.
When I think of OPEX people, I think of like smarty pants. Like I think of them as being like a little more like complicated and smarter than the rest of us average like CrossFitters. Like they fall into the weeds. Like it's a good and bad thing.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, for me,
And I might be totally wrong. If I got the stereotype wrong, you slap me around. I'm open.
I can see where you get that. I can see based on some of their media and maybe some of the coaches that come from that realm.
Like I would think of Fikowski as being an OPEX guy.
Yeah, because he's just like very analytical and planned and stuff like that.
Yeah, and maybe even Vellner or like that guy Lucas Parker up in Canada. Just like,
yeah, I mean, maybe it is a stereotype that you're developing there.
Yeah, I do not stereotype.
Yeah. I mean, I took OPEX's coaching course, and that was for me when I was in the process of deciding when I knew that eventually I wasn't going to stay at CrossFit Enhance, the hospital CrossFit gym for forever. And at that time I had started doing some remote coaching just kind of on the side. I felt like that was a good program for me to take because I thought that, coaching individuals remotely would be something that I would be good at and that I would enjoy. And so that was kind of like a good framework for me to transition from being like a group coach to a one-on-one coach, which, yeah, I think OPEX has a lot of great content. And as far as the coaching certificate program, like that's as thorough as it gets. It's a full year. I mean, I have a master's degree in exercise science, and I got more from that 1 year coaching program than I did from my 5 years of studies.
Remarkable. You would think, or I don't know, does this make sense to you that they would offer all of the games champions free affiliation?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know that would be something that I would take advantage of, as we've been able to kind of broaden our market a little bit. I'll tell you this. I'll just
tell me
straight up. In
Please.
Decatur, Illinois, it's my opinion that the CrossFit's a little bit watered down. There was because of CrossFit Enhance being so big and for many years, and the hospital was basically able to make memberships like dirt cheap. The market is just kind of at its limit on CrossFit here. It's in a town that the population goes down every single year, and it's Macon County. Decatur's in Macon County. It's literally, other than Cook County, it's the unhealthiest county in all of Illinois.
No shit.
Yeah. So like I said, you'd think,
wow,
owner, that would be a good thing, but the people there also have to value doing fitness, and it's just a very like blue collar industrial town. This is where one of the largest soy processors is here in Decatur, and so it's just honestly, it's not the greatest market for fitness. So by being a one-on-one coach, like I said, I've just been able to broaden my market and work remotely, which is beneficial being where I'm at.
How tall are you?
5'9" 3/4.
And you graduated high school like between 135 and 150?
I was probably 140 when I graduated high school. Yeah.
And what's the most you've ever weighed in your life? Have you ever hit 200?
Oh yeah, I was 205 just like 4 or 5 months ago before I started kind of cutting down for the competition season.
Fuck, dude, that's huge.
Yeah. I had no upper body strength whatsoever because when I was in high school, I didn't know, I hadn't developed like the adaptations and modifications for movements. And I didn't know I could press a barbell overhead. And so I really just like in high school, I squatted and I conditioned. So I just had no upper body strength. So I was very just thin and lean. I was a little
like a track star.
I was a middle distance runner. I ran the mile, 800 and 2 mile a little bit. So did a lot of long running throughout the year as well. So yeah, I've put on some size and some weight since high school for sure.
And how old did you say you are?
I will be 30 this year.
And you're the only person to have ever won. Your division showed up 2 years ago, and now you've won it 2 years in a row. The what's it called? Upper extremity.
Yes.
This is sorry for the leading question. What did you think about the award ceremony for the adaptive class?
I don't think about it, I guess.
Okay. I hated it.
Same thing it's the same thing for the age groups, and it's the same money essentially. So I don't know. I don't really care.
Here's the thing. It was when they march all you guys out like that, the adaptive class, there's first of all, there's not a lot of you. It's not like the age class where it just goes on forever. There's not a lot of adaptive classes.
Yeah.
I would rather they just, if they have a time issue, just introduce the champs.
Yeah.
Don't introduce second and third place. I'm okay with, but when they marched all of you out, there is a circus freak component to it that I fucking did not like.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, look, there's the bearded woman. Look, there's the guy who with two heads. And maybe it's just me, but I'm like, what the fuck? Just bring out the champs, and then bring out, and then maybe for the masters too, just introduce the champs. Sorry, we don't got time, but to mesh them all out, I would rather be more elitist than inclusive and be more sincere. The love for them, because I'm just being I have to fill the hour and 15 minutes we're going to talk, but I did feel that when they came out.
Yeah. I mean, you got to remember that CrossFit's really pushing for this inclusivity and all that stuff. So maybe for them, that's something that they
bring them all out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't even need the individual second and third place, to be honest with you. And when they show the event on YouTube, they I'm trying to think where it was. Like they do just focus on the winners, and I think that's fine.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people. They got time constraints.
Yeah, I mean, I can get both. I can see both sides, because
I think it's better for the brand too if they're like, this is Casey Acree. He's 2 times champion. Good fucking luck beating him. Instead of just like, hey, here's all the people who are missing body parts. It's like, yeah. I think it's better for the brand.
I can see it both ways. Yeah, I'm with you.
You're with me, or you can see it both ways?
I think that's the same thing.
Because of what you know about imbalance, and I've heard you talk about that.
Yeah.
Do you think you're equally qualified? Well, do you think that makes you more qualified? Do you think that helps you as a, I think one of the things that fucked me up was I was a filmmaker for 20 years and I always held the camera like this.
Yeah.
And I should have had someone tell me, hey dude, you got to like 50-50 that shit.
Yeah.
And I'm twisted now. I gave myself scoliosis or something. Is that something you discovered on your own? It seems so obvious, but like I didn't unfuck myself. Or did someone tell you that? And like, how does that play out into your coaching?
No, I mean, that's something that I started kind of figuring out on my own. And I mean, it's not that I didn't have things that I could go and research. I mean, I was like deep in the K-Star mobility WOD stuff for a long time. And OPEX talks a lot about structural balance, and like, there's not that I'm like, reinventing the wheel or anything. But as far as how I'm applying those things to myself and what I'm doing, that was something that just over time and just through experience, I've figured out. And I've always said that, for me, I started training like an athlete before there was even anything offered for adaptive athletes, and before I even knew what the fuck an adaptive athlete was. And so I've always felt like training for me is kind of what I enjoy the most. And so I've been doing it for a long time. So I eventually just kind of figured it out, what was going to work best for me. Oh man, that's a long time ago. Holy cow. but yeah, so then I'm able to use those experiences that I've had and apply some of that to the people that I coach. Cause like I said, I do work with adaptive athletes. I work with people with one arm or one leg or whatever. And it's all just based on principles and kind of understanding the body a little bit. And then also seeing what are when and why are those imbalances going to arise, because we are doing things that aren't where the amount of volume that I do on my right shoulder is going to always be higher than what I do on my left shoulder. So what can I do to mitigate some of those imbalances? So yeah, I mean, I can use those experiences in my coaching. I think that that's probably one of the reasons that I've attracted some of the adaptive athletes that I have.
What are some of what's like your all-time best back squat?
440 back squat.
What about a 20 rep?
Oh, 20 rep back squat is like 295.
Crazy.
Maybe I maybe could do. I haven't done a 20 rep back squat in a long time. I can maybe go a little heavier than that now.
I've got and how about deadlift?
I'm not a great hinger. I just PR'd my deadlift a couple months ago at 426.
Crazy.
That was an imbalance because, like I mentioned, when I was in high school, I could back squat, but I didn't know, I hadn't figured out the straps that I used. So I never deadlifted when I was in high school. I just back squatted. And I think my anthropometrics are suited a little bit more for squatting. I squat like a Chinese Olympic weightlifter kind of. And so it's just, I'm not super comfortable in a hinging position.
Is your deadlift supposed to be more than your back squat?
Yeah, I would say probably 98% of the world are going to deadlift more than they can squat, probably.
Maybe that's why I'm screwed up too. I definitely deadlift more than I squat. Oh, but you don't. Right. I got it.
Yeah.
So I'm not screwed up like you. Okay.
Correct.
What about pull up? What's the most weighted pull up you ever did?
Probably I've done like a 70-pound strict pull up probably.
You put that strap around your forearm. Is that hairball? Does that ever come off, that strap in an explosive movement like that, and the barbell comes free?
Yeah, I mean, I've had straps rip. Like I've been doing like a clean and hit the powerful extension part of the lift and the strap rips and the bar kind of.
But never come off the end, like just come off the end?
No.
Can you feel down there? If it were slipping, would you feel it?
Yeah, but I mean, if you think about it, with it sitting in, I mean, you could imagine like if you just held onto a strap in your elbow pit, right, you could that locked position pretty strong. Like the leverage there is pretty easy. So, the grip strength that I have there, since the lever arm is not very long, is really, really strong. So no, it's never been, I don't think that I've ever felt like I was, going to come flying. If anything, honestly, I lose grip in my hand before I do in my elbow.
What's this bone called in here?
The medial side is the ulna, and the lateral side is the radius.
Do you have an ulna and a radius in that arm?
I have a little bit of my ulna and radius, yes. And I know that because I have elbow flexion, which your bicep attaches to your ulna, and that's how you bend your forearm. And I have a little bit of rotation, and you can kind of palpate and feel the bones in there. So yeah, they're there. They just that's where it ends.
What a trip. Have you ever had that x-rayed and looked in there and see how it comes to a head at the end?
I haven't. I need to get some radiologist friends or something, don't I?
Oh, I don't know how anatomy works, but those two, I'm assuming that those two bones, whatever you said, the ulna and the other radial thing, that at some point they go into they're being both held in the elbow somehow, and then they're both being held in the wrist somehow. And I'm wondering what's at the end of yours.
Yeah, that's
or if they're just free balling.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it's very strong and stable. Like, yeah, I don't know if those two are like kind of fused together or something like that. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm sure it looks pretty goofy.
Do you floss your teeth?
I do. I use flosser sticks though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't. I used to have to wrap around the floss on each finger and then like go like,
Yeah.
but then the flosser sticks started coming out and it was a game changer for me.
I was at the CrossFit Games this one time, and Kyle was in the stands, and I chewed a piece of gum, and he was like 5 seats away from me, and I think it was at the CrossFit Games. We were somewhere together, and he said, "Oh, can I have a piece of gum?" And I purposely like threw the pack at him, like to fuck with them. But you couldn't fuck with them. The dude had no arms and no legs his whole life. He fucking caught it, pulled out the stick, and did the like there was no fucking with him.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he had it figured out. There was a guy. There's some blind people now that weren't. I don't know if you've seen them. They do this clicking thing, and they use sonar. I guess it's sonar, and they can ride bikes, and they can be like, I'm passing a bush, and they can roller skate, and they don't need a stick, and they're completely blind, and they've been blind by birth.
Yeah.
And my understanding is the reason why they can do that is because no one fucked with them and gave them the stick. And I can't believe I'm going to use this word, but you know how like there's this word called mansplaining. A normal person didn't try to fix their problem for them.
Yeah.
They fixed their own problem.
Right.
Have you ever had any of that where it's like the able-bodied people try to give you something like a prosthetic or something, and really it's like, hey dude, you're actually fucking me up and making me weaker?
Yeah, I stopped getting prosthetics when I was like 5 years old because I had a couple. They were so uncomfortable and cumbersome back then that I just never wore it. So I had started figuring out pretty much everything without it. So then whenever I would put it on to try to practice and try to use it, it was just honestly slowing me down. I had to think about things more with it on than with it off. So yeah, I think I was 5 years old and it was like time where I needed to get a new one because I had grown or whatever. And I told my parents that I didn't want another one. So I've never used a prosthetic or anything like that. I mean, other than that, I've been always pretty inventive and independent on most things where, I don't know, the teachers or whatever give a little bit of guidance, but I've always just kind of, been able to figure out most things at some point.
I mean, there's things that we take for granted, right? Like I get onto the tram at like an airport and I got my luggage in one hand or my cell phone in the other hand, and then the tram takes off, and with my other hand I grab the pole. I guess you have enough to grab the pole though too.
Yeah.
How did you meet your wife?
We actually grew up in the same town, same area. She grew up in a different town, but all one school district. And so I've known her since I was in 6th grade when our schools consolidated. And we didn't start dating until I was in college and she was a senior in high school.
And everyone must know who you are. It must be like, hey, I'm going to Casey's house, and they're like, who's that? And, the dude with one arm. Oh, what are you guys doing? Oh, we're going to the park to throw the football. Right? It's like everyone's got to know who you are in fucking in a small town in Illinois.
Yeah, pretty much.
And so how did you, if you're in college and she's in high school, how did you guys meet? Church or?
No, I mean, we were good friends for a long time. She was about to graduate, and we had both been in other relationships in high school and yada yada. I had friends that's just how it goes when you're in a small town. We had she dated one of my friends and I dated one of her kind of friends or whatever. But we were always like good friends and kind of hung out in the same group or whatever. And then, yeah, I mean, I don't know, how did those things happen? You just decide that you want to start talking to someone a little bit more and you want to take them to go get something to eat. And then here we are about, 10 years later, we're married, have 2 kids, and yeah.
Does she train?
She exercises. I wouldn't call what she does training. I hope she's not offended by that. I don't think she would be, but she exercises. She likes to be active, but it's hard when you have 2 kids, and she's a high school teacher, and she's coached sports, and she's coached basketball and volleyball. And so we're very busy. So she does what she can.
Yeah, that's intense. Are you do you homeschool your kids?
No, we do not. You want to help me? I've been trying to talk her into.
It'll happen. Don't worry. Only a couple more bad things need to happen, and everyone will be homeschooling.
She teaches at the same high school that we graduated from, and so we really love our school district. My son.
That's good to hear.
About to start pre-K, and my wife's sister was going to be his pre-K teacher.
And you live in a totally different world than me. I'm in California. I'm like in the hive of insanity.
Yeah.
And you're in a totally different.
Yes.
Like your kids are probably left alone. They're just taught adding, subtracting, how to good penmanship, and go be on the playground and be a nice kid. It's not like that in these school districts here.
Yeah, it's pretty chill. It's pretty standard school as of right now. I mean, we are in Illinois, so we are subject to the whims of the Chicago world. So as long as we can kind of basically just ask for them to leave us alone, then we should be okay most of the time.
I heard Atlanta just passed. I heard this morning that Atlanta just passed Chicago as the most dangerous big city in the United States. Did you hear that?
Oh, surprised. But I mean, at that point, does it really fucking matter who's 1 and who's 2?
No. Good point. Great point. I want why when you say that CrossFit is watered down, did that mean that there's too many gyms, or that there's not a respect for it? What did you mean by that exactly?
Basically the 2 bigger gyms in the area for years, instead of I don't want to offend anybody. Instead of trying to make things better to make themselves more valuable, they just undercut each other's prices.
Okay.
So you want to hear something crazy?
Please.
In 2017, when I was still at the CrossFit gym, an unlimited membership was $80 per month.
Wow.
An unlimited family membership was $110 per month.
Wow.
That's open gym, that's classes. And that was and we were more expensive than some of the other gyms in the area. So when that's kind of like the model, and that's what, when you're in a town we have a finite population, it's not growing, it's going down every year. Kind of the people that are going to do CrossFit are doing CrossFit, then that's just what they expect. Like that's what the market expects the value of CrossFit at, unfortunately. And then it's ridiculous that you can go to Springfield, that's only 45 minutes away, and the CrossFit memberships are 2 times that.
Right.
So I don't know. It's just a weird situation with how the gyms here grew and developed, and then eventually that was just kind of like what was expected. And yes, there's 3 or 4 CrossFit gyms in a relatively small town. It's a big town, but it's a declining population.
How are the games? How are the events and the whole experience?
Oh, this year was awesome. The events, that was probably what I was most pleased with. I think like last year, with it being the first year of them doing it, they kind of had to be very simplistic in our program design. So like we did like a long run, and then we did a deadlift 1 rep max, and then we did the swim event. So there's just a lot of like very simple. There wasn't much complexity. This year it was like they kind of went for it a little bit. I felt like we got to do, the odd object stuff, and our run wasn't just a run, like it was the run and rope climb and dumbbell push press event.
And you dominated. You took first in every event.
I did, yeah.
Do you think maybe that's why you liked it so much?
What's that?
I said, do you think maybe that's why you liked it so much?
I mean, I'm sure it helps. I always still want to go out there and get to express what I'm capable of, and just always do that, right? And I also want to be challenged, and like there were parts of it that even when you're winning, you're still being challenged in yourself and what you're capable of. And I still will always try to have these, like there's a workout that I'm like, okay, I'm confident I can win this. Let's try to do it unbroken, or let's try to see if I can push my run pace here, or, whatever. I'll try to, find ways to continuously challenge myself. And that's the field that I compete against. Even though I won every event, as I wasn't a lot of the events, it's not like I was just way out ahead and it was just like I could stand there. I'm being pushed on every single one. I've got some pretty freaking fit dudes that I'm competing against. So every event I'm going into it like, man, I got to really execute this, and I got to make sure I do this. And like, I'm scared of this guy. I'm scared of this guy. These guys aren't going to just go out there and let me win them.
They want to win.
I compete against some crazy dudes, and they're awesome athletes, and they take it very seriously too. So, yeah, it was fun the whole way. Yeah.
Do they drug test you?
They do.
They do.
Yep.
So you took your pants down, the guy watched you pee in the cup.
Absolutely. That was the hardest event of the whole thing, of holding a cup and pissing into it without getting pee all over the place.
Oh shit. How did you do that?
I have long fingers. So I hold a cup.
Oh, right. So like I would hold my penis away, but you could also just dangle your penis into the cup and pee, and then lower the cup so that your penis doesn't go into the pee. Whereas I might keep my penis out of the cup.
Yeah. Like there's a little more dexterity needed for me doing everything with one hand. But
hey, don't judge me. It's hard with two hands too. You don't know. You don't know. You can't judge.
I can imagine. I don't mean to be ableist, but I can imagine.
You're so close-minded. So they test you guys, you compete, and how many dudes do a lot of guys not get to go to?
Do a lot of guys not get to go? What do you mean by that? Like
to the games. There's only 5 of you, but are there 100 guys who are trying to go?
Yeah, there were over 100 in my division in the open. Yeah.
And there's no age. It's
open.
It's open. What was the youngest guy? Do you know what the youngest guy is out of the whole group? I don't mean at the games, but out of the whole group. Like, is there a 17-year-old?
Oh shit, I don't know. I'm sure there is. Yeah.
And do you know who the oldest is? Like, you see any 70-year-old dudes?
There's some old dudes. Yeah, there's some guys in their 50s, for sure. Some of those guys. I mean, I like personally know some guys that are pretty old that that have competed in like the scaled divisions at Wadapalooza, like scaled adaptive division at Wadapalooza that I know. I don't know.
Oh, and you're the 5 times winner at Wadapalooza?
Yes.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Are you doing it next year?
Again? As of right now, I'm kind of tentatively planning on it. It's this past year wasn't a lot of fun, but I'm hoping that it will be a little bit better.
Why wasn't it fun?
Well, just a lot of things. I think Wadapalooza is almost trying to become too big. Like they have divisions they have beginners, scaled, intermediate, RX, elite, the age group divisions, the adaptive divisions. It's just like it was almost too much. And so like in a 3-day competition, we did 5 events. And I don't know. I just felt like I didn't get my money's worth, We had Saturday of the competition, we did 1 event. Our event was at 5:00. So I'm just like, sitting around hanging out all day long.
Was that because of the rain though, or were you only going to do 5 period?
Nope. We got all of our scheduled events in.
is it like, here's something I struggle with. So, and I don't know how it is with the adaptives, but with the age group people, like they want so much. Like the age groups are just, they have men and women, and then they have all those fucking age groups.
Yeah.
And like with upper extremity or with adaptive, you don't get any of that. It's just like dudes, girls, and like it doesn't matter what age you are, you all go into the same pile. And I get it. I get it. Are you okay with that? Because it does make sense to me. At some point, you have to like think logistics, right? Like you could be like, that's not fair, but it's like, yeah, but fuck, dude, there's only 100 of you, and over here there's 3,000 65-year-old women.
Right. Yes.
But then,
what would be the point of having the competition if broken down like that? If you had 3 guys in the whole world that were in the upper extremity 50 to 54 division,
right?
I mean, I get the idea of like they're maybe not going to get to compete against. They're not going to be able to compete against someone that's 25.
And just the cost of it too, right?
Yeah.
Just running the lights to keep the fucking place open probably costs $68, and your registration's gone. It's like,
yeah.
So do you ever feel that like, hey, on both sides, it's like, hey, quit complaining so much, or like, hey, you're not doing enough for us? Like, I feel like that we always only hear about the complainers.
Yeah,
How are the adaptive group as a whole? Are they pretty chill, or?
There's a little bit of both.
Yeah. I'm
in the camp of like, you just try as good as we can. And just, yeah, there are definitely people that, are frustrated or feel like there are things in the adaptive CrossFit world that aren't fair, or that we don't get enough recognition, or that the divisions aren't broken down enough, or, I mean, like, are there dudes that hate on you because you have your elbow? And he's like, fuck, like Logan doesn't have his elbow. Yeah. I mean, no, like, fuck that. That guy should be in his own class. Maybe a little bit. And again, like, this is kind of the conversation we're having. One day those divisions might be broken down, where I'm considered an upper extremity 2 points of attachment, because I have the ability to use straps or devices to hold a barbell with both points, or to hold onto a pull-up bar with both points. Whereas Logan, for example, would be a 1 point. Right. At the games, what they essentially try to do is basically mitigate those differences as much as possible. So that, by what events they choose. Yeah. So like, we do, instead of us doing a barbell snatch last year at the games, we did a dumbbell snatch, for example. Right. And last year at the games, we did 1-arm ski erg instead of 2-arm ski erg. Right. So, yeah. The irony is that you tried to go individual. Right. I mean, I know I'm not going to make it to a semifinal or something, but it's still fun to try. Last year I did quarterfinals. I signed up, submitted my scores, the whole thing. How did you do? I don't remember. I was like 4,000 or 3,000th or something in North America. I was 135th on one of the workouts in all of North America. Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Amy Tomlinson, what are your thoughts on the fairness of the adaptive division? Example, Joshua M. being able to do butterfly pull-ups, bar ring muscle-ups, double touches, 200-pound plus snatch, 300-pound plus clean. Basically, I know he has an adaptation, but why? What is this dude like? What's Josh's deal? Is he just a regular dude who entered the adaptive class? No, he has a condition called Erb's palsy. So it's basically some neurological and physical deformation of his shoulder. Yeah. That prevents him from being able to get in certain ranges of motion and inhibits his strength to an extent. And so he's able to compete in the upper extremity. I mean, yes, he can do all those things, but almost everything that we do at the games is 1 arm anyways. Like, we didn't do a barbell clean. So even though I can do barbell cleans too with 2 points of attachment. But we don't do that. We did a front squat as our strength test, because that's something that was, level across the variations of disability that are within the division. And I mean, there are going to be things like, okay, yeah, he can push off with both of his arms when he does a burpee. To what degree is he limited on the one side? How can you really know? I mean, there's going to be things that are unfair, and
it's so easy to hate on the neurological people. Like there was a girl that was on the podcast a couple times during the week, and I was like, my brain was like, she doesn't belong in adaptive. But I have no business saying that. I mean, that's just me just being a complete ignorant asshole. But my brain was saying that.
I mean, it's so complex.
Yeah.
It just is. You're right. The neurological division is tough because so much of it you can't see. And how do you quantify how much their disabilities are actually affecting their ability to express their fitness? And but like the thing is, like there's people in the adaptive world that get frustrated because they think that things are unfair, that they're never going to have a chance or whatever. But the only way to eventually get to make it grow where we maybe could have more broken down divisions is for everyone to stay involved and to continue signing up and doing the best that we can. And I mean, really, a lot of us got into training when there was no CrossFit Games for the adaptive division. So why are you going to let your perception that things are unfair discourage you from continuing to train or continue to try to challenge yourself? Because numbers and getting the best athletes as we possibly can is how it's going to eventually grow. So people getting frustrated and just saying, fuck it, we're not signing up. That doesn't really help anything.
At the end of the day, these are all great fucking problems to have.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're arguing about who belongs in the neurological class as opposed to, hey, we need a neurological class.
Yeah, I agree. And I think people have that's a bit of a rose colored lens, maybe people would say, but I think that it's
the truth. I think
that's the same perception that I have. Like, I'm just thankful. I tell people all the time, I mentioned this in my post event interview with Derek, that it was like 2013. I was in college. My now business partner and good friend had started doing like .com workouts, and I was like, all right, sure, I'll mess with it a little bit. I'd just been, bodybuilding and just kind of learning some of being able to use straps for certain movements and stuff like that. And I just started doing CrossFit and I loved it. It was challenging, and there were things that I couldn't do that I wanted to try to learn how to do. And I started following like What's Rich Doing. So it's like a, competitors type program. And I started following it and modifying or adapting to myself. I started basically training like an athlete before there was anything that I could ever, really have a chance of competing in. And I said back then, I'll train like an athlete because it's enjoyable for me and it's fun for me and I want to do it and I want to challenge myself. And maybe one day down the road, there will be a competition for me. I don't know, but I'll be ready when it comes. And I had that kind of intrinsic, I just wanted to train like that for myself before there was ever a competition that existed. And I challenged some of my clients with that question of like, would you be willing to train this hard and challenge yourself and do these hard things if the competition didn't exist? And if you wouldn't, then maybe you shouldn't even be doing it.
This dude swept the board and barely got any recognition. What are you talking about? The DEI council made me bring him on. What are you talking about? Hey, great note to end on. Dutch Lowy said it to me in 2008. If you don't know what you want to do, the best thing you could do is be prepared for the unknown and unknowable. And what gets you in that place is CrossFit or OPEX or any of that stuff. Hey, yeah. Dude, thank you so much for coming on.
Of course.
I'm glad we did it. Yeah. Thanks for giving me your phone number. Thanks for letting me text you. Thanks for letting me harass you. You're a great dude. And hopefully, I know we'll reconnect again.
Yep. Sounds good. I appreciate it.
Yep. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye. I have to go. I don't want to go. I want to hang out with him. Can you come on or no? You can't come on. Hi.
Hey. That's awesome.
What time is it? What time is it?
Dinner time-ish. Late.
All right. I'm going to try to run to the coffee shop. I'm meeting Greg Glassman's kids, and my kids are doing a skate camp together. So I get to go sit with Greg for 3 hours and watch our kids skate. So I'm pretty pumped. And his wife. So I will talk to you soon. This evening we have a crazy show. Dude, the Overnight Sensations, Taylor Self and JR Howell. Holy shit. They will be on the show tonight to tell you why they are so great. I mean, to talk about the programming at the CrossFit Games this year. I'll talk to all you guys soon.